and welcome to the complete settings guide for X-Plane 10.5. A little over a year and a half ago, I did the complete settings guide for X-Plane 10.36, and that video remains to date the video with the highest hits. A lot of you have requested me to do this video, and since this the PC that I'm using nowadays is different from the one that I've done the previous settings guide for, so I'm going to show you everything that I do in order to get the results that you see in my videos. I'm going to show you the PC specs. I'm going to show you my X-Plane settings, SkyMaxx Pro, RTH, and I will give you some tips along the way to help you get the same results that I get. Now, it is important to note that that your PC is going to be one of the main factors as to what you can and cannot do in the sim. And I've picked for this test the Airfoils Lab Cessna, and we are currently situated at Mollis Airport in Switzerland. And the reason I picked Mollis Airport is that, first of all the scenery that you see here is default X-Plane, and it's got the right mix for us to test. It's got the, it's got the mountainous terrain, which places heavy load on the GPU. It's got some some buildings right down in this area right here. Obviously, it's got a lot of trees, as you can see, all the trees here. So it's going to be a good starting point for us to test everything, and we'll go from there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to show you my PC settings. Okay, captains. So this is my PC. I have Windows 10 Professional Edition. The processor is an Intel Core i7-4790K at 4 GHz. Of course, I'll show my overclocking settings in just a moment. I have 32 GB of RAM. Of course, this is a 64-bit operating system, and that's all that really you need to see right in the screen. Okay. So this is the MSI Command Center, where you go to overclock your CPU, and as you can see, I have all 4 cores overclocked to 4.5 gigahertz. I found out, I fiddled around with this a lot, by the way. I've tried 4.7, 4.8. I let the OC Genie kind of do its own magic, and it would, for example, put this one on 4.2, that one on 4.7, and that one, it would give me a 4.7 to 4.8 total overclocked speed. But I found out after various testing that the best performance I get without any stuttering, without any pauses, and without overheating the CPU was to overclock all cores to 4.5 gigahertz. Okay, so let us take a look at my NVIDIA control panel settings. And I know a lot of you have asked me a lot of questions about the NVIDIA control panel settings. And folks, I have not changed anything since X-Plane 10.36. These are the same exact settings, and you will find the same exact settings in my previous video. So I'm running the anisotropic filtering at 8x, which is the global settings. Now, this is important. FXAA is on, and just by turning this on, you'll get rid of the jaggies on the aircraft, mainly on the aircraft and some of the buildings. It does help, and it does not come at a big performance cost. In fact, I have not seen any degradation in performance with FXAA being on. Let's see here. These are all the global settings, so let me take you to what I have. So, multi-display mixed GPU acceleration. It's extremely important that if you are not running on more than one monitor, that you set this to single display performance mode, okay? It will really help your performance. If you are running more than one monitor, it is important to set it to multiple display performance mode, okay? So some of you may need to fiddle around with this if you're running more than one monitor and see what it does. I've tested this on a friend's machine, and the difference was not significant, to be frank. But the difference is significant if you use multiple display performance mode on a single monitor. So make sure you have a single display performance mode selected. Power management mode, always prefer maximum performance, and that's the setting that will ensure that you get the most voltage all the time to your machine. What else there? Okay, so texture filtering quality, you set this on high quality, and threaded optimization needs to be off. By default, this option is on auto, and it needs to be off, otherwise you will get some pauses in your flight sim. And this is only true for X-Plane. For some reason, the auto setting causes pauses in the sim. Even you could be getting like 50-60 frames a second, but with this option on auto, you would still get a lot of stutters, and actually, I'll take that back. You'll get some pauses, not stutters, okay? And for vertical sync, of course, I'm using the 3D application settings. I am not using NVidia Inspector at all for X-Plane. It does not really work with it. So I just completely use the NVIDIA control panel for everything that has to do with X-Plane. All right, let's jump back into the sim and take a look at the X-Plane settings. All right, captains. So we are now back in the sim, and I have enabled the frame rate window here. So you can see I'm getting now 35, 36 frames, and CPU 28, about 27% on CPU and GPU utilization, which is normal. As long as these numbers are below 40, you should be fine. Okay, now as I said, I'm using the Airfoils Lab Cessna. It's a heavy aircraft on performance, so this is going to be our test aircraft today. Let's go ahead and take a look at the rendering options. Okay, now first of all, I am, of course, as you all know, I have a Titan X NVIDIA graphics card with 12 GB of VRAM. So VRAM is not really an issue for me, but I still compress textures to save VRAM. And what I have actually noticed is that when I untick this, I don't get anything visually. I don't get anything, any improvement. Okay, but I do get stutters when this option is ticked off. So by all means, always have this ticked on, even if you have a Titan X with 12 GB VRAM. It's always wise to have this ticked. Run this at maximum resolution. This is the full screen. I have the 1980 by 1080, so it doesn't matter whether I put custom or I run it at full screen. I choose to run it at full screen. I have no issues with that. Frame rate locked to monitor refresh rate. What I've noticed is that if you use lock, it actually doesn't really help. But with do not lock, you get a little bit of frame rates. So you actually gain performance by not locking this to the monitor refresh rate. And by the way, I have an Asus monitor with 144 Hertz refresh rate. So not locking this to the monitor refresh rate works fine for me. It gives me a little bit of frame rates. I think it was 2 or 3 according to the tests that I've done. Gamma, this is how kind of dark your X-Plane is going to be. Now, the default settings is 2.2. I've seen in a lot of the Coronado aircraft that this should be set to 2.7. And if you set it to if you set it to 2.7, you will not get any problems at night looking through the cockpit switches. And I believe that's why they set it to 2.7, or the recommendation is to set it to 2.7. 2.2 works for me. Of course, I do have BlueFX, which is a plugin. You can find it in one of my videos, which you can use to brighten X-Plane a little bit and leave this setting alone if you like. Or you can fiddle around with this. My recommendation is just do not make too big of changes before you actually test it. So go to 2.3 or 2.4 tops and then test it, see how it looks, and then keep going back and forth until you hit that sweet spot. Just one thing on the gamma settings, it requires a restart. So every time you change it to a value, you need to quit X-Plane and come back again. Oh, I almost forgot the texture resolution. I run the texture resolution on extreme resolution. I think this gives me the best visuals. And just a quick note on this, on if you are using things like HD meshes or photoreal scenery and things like that, it can really consume a lot of VRAM. So be careful with this setting. And if you see these settings very high, normal, and minimal, what it does is actually divides the resolution by a factor of 2 every time you go down. So if you have the mesh at 4K and you select extreme resolution, you would get 4K. If you go to very high, you would get the 2K, 1K, 5K, 250K, and then 125, something like that. Okay, so be careful with your settings. Again, if you have a Titan X or if you have a 980, I don't think that you'll have a problem with this. And as you will see throughout the course of this video, is that there is absolutely no problem for the 980 Ti to run with pretty much the same settings that I have here. There are some areas where it requires high VRAM. So I think the maximum that I've used anywhere in X-Plane was about 7 gigs of VRAM. So that would be the threshold, and start pushing those graphic cards to the limits, and you might get degradation in performance. So let us move here, stuff to draw. And I have all of these ticked off. I used to have runways follow terrain contours on for the longest time, as a matter of fact. But what I've noticed is that in a lot of airports, that causes a lot of trouble when taking off or landing. It does look good, and it is very realistic in the way that it does look. But unfortunately, it causes a lot of issues with takeoffs and landings. So I decided to turn it off. I have all of the rest of the stuff here turned off. DRO, Aurora, DRO, aircraft carriers, birds, forest lines. These don't really enhance the simulation in any way. They don't really enhance the visuals in any way. And they do consume a lot of resources, especially this one here. Birds and deer in nice weather. Of course, I've removed the deers, but still the birds do consume a lot of frames. So I turned all of this off. If we move on here, stuff to draw. Now, there is something extremely important to understand. There are the two things that will significantly affect performance is the shadow detail and your HDR anti-aliasing. Okay? The more stuff you have to draw with your shadow detail, it means that the more shadows would have to be rendered with more stuff. So if you have the trees on Tree Hugger, and you have the shadow detail on high, just remember that every single tree that is going to be drawn will also have a shadow to be cast during daytime. And that will place significant load on your both CPU and GPU, and it will definitely bring the performance down. And I will show you in a minute. We'll do a quick test to see how this actually translates into the sim. So as you can see, I have everything here set on high, and I have the number of cars on default, Siberia winter. Now, cars actually do affect performance quite a bit, but I find them to be, they add something to the experience of flying at night, especially with the headlights of cars on the streets, motorways or freeways, whatever you want to call them. They look absolutely marvelous. I think they immerse you in the experience, and so I leave them on. I think they look great. World detail distance, this is another biggie. Again, this is how far you can see in the horizon. And I found out that setting this actually to high would increase performance significantly. Okay, now I do have it on very high because my machine can take it, but if you are having trouble with frames, before changing anything else, just set this on high and you will see that the performance that you get is quite considerable. Runway, taxiway, smoothness, and lighting, I have this on extreme because this would actually make the taxi lights look very sharp, very smooth, and the taxiway, the marking on the taxiway would look extremely sharp as you see them in my videos. So this is definitely on extreme. Now, global melt your GPU shadow detail. Okay, now let me tell you something about this, and it's very important. As I've just explained, that the more stuff you have to draw, the more shadows will need to be casted during daytime. And for this reason, on some flights, not all flights, I set this to 3D on aircraft, and the settings between this and this is about 10 to 15 frames. Yes, that's right, 10 to 15 frames. So this setting here can really bring any machine to its knees. So if you're getting, say, 35 frames and you turn this on 3D on aircraft and you change it to global, melt your GPU, you're talking about 20. So you're going from a very fluid, very smooth experience to stutters and really bad frames and bad performance, and that would just drive you nuts. So on some flights, I do change this, especially in flights where things like places like New York, unless of course I'm flying at night, then it wouldn't matter because there are no shadows to be casted on any objects. So it wouldn't really matter if you're flying at night. But if you're flying in the daytime, this setting will really matter. Water reflection detail. This is, I know some of you said that this doesn't really affect performance, but guys, it really does. You lose about 3 to 4 frames on the complete settings. But again, I think it looks absolutely marvelous, especially when you're flying between mountains. A good place to test this is Queenstown in New Zealand, where there's a lot of mountains surrounded by water. It's a good place to go and test play with these settings and see, what it looks like. So I have this on complete. Now, special effects, I have all of these turned on. 3D bump maps are on. Gritty detail textures are on. Draw volumetric fog. Draw pixel lighting. HDR rendering is enabled. And atmospheric scattering is also enabled. And now for HDR anti-aliasing, the difference between all of these. Now, of course, remember that I have FXAA turned on in my NVIDIA control panel. Okay, so going from this one to this one, it wouldn't really make any difference for me. This one, the difference between all of these is the amount of shimmering that you will see in the sim. And my God, X-Plane, that's probably the worst thing about X-Plane, is the shimmering that you get. Even by the way, at 8 times SSA and FXAA, you would still get a lot of shimmering. Now, the shimmering is not visible at night, by the way, or as the sun sets, the shimmering kind of goes away, but it's most notable during daytime. And I find the best setting with performance for performance is the 4 times SSA and FXAA. And of course, anisotropic filter level is set to 16, and of course this overrides whatever I have in the NVIDIA control panel for X-Plane, which is 6, which is, beg your pardon, 8. Cloud detail, I have put this all the way down to 10% because I'm using SkyMaxx Pro, and I will show you SkyMaxx Pro in just a little while. Lateral field of view is set at 80. I think the Airfoils Lab Cessna has its own settings, so when you set it at 80, it just kind of put this in default and you can't really change it. But 80 is always a good number. On some aircraft, I put it on 75. Some aircraft recommend that you take this all the way up to 85, which is okay. I just don't think that 85 is very realistic. I don't think 80 is very realistic. I think 70 maybe or 65 is a more realistic field of view for most of the aircraft in X-Plane. But anyway, for ease of use, for convenience, if you will, I set this at 80. There's this option here, draw parked aircraft at airports, and this has to do with X-Plane 10.5 traffic. So I think that's what it is. Enables parked aircraft. I remove this because if a lot of the aircraft that I already have, beg your pardon, a lot of the airports that I already have do have static aircraft with them, and I do not use the built-in ATC of X-Plane. I normally fly online on Pilot Edge or VATSIM or IVAO, so I don't really need any static aircraft there. So that's really everything to do with my X-Plane settings. And now let me show you a few things in the sim just to test these out. All right, captains. So we are now back in X-Plane, and as you can see, these are all the trees, and you can see how the shadow is casted here. So every tree that is drawn has now shadow. And this is what we're getting in terms of frames, okay? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to rendering options, and I'm going to change this to 3D on aircraft, and let's see what happens. Look at how many frames we have gotten. From 35, we went to about 50 frames. So this confirms the significance of the shadow details and how it affects performance. So now we have it on 3D on aircraft, but you can see now how we've lost the shadow casting on all the objects here. And the only shadow that you'll get now is on the 3D, on the aircraft itself and inside the aircraft. You'll get still the volumetric shadows inside the aircraft, but nothing in the X-Plane world, which makes it a little bit, well, it's not that bad, to be frank with you. But I think just the the shadows really gives it a lot of liveliness because that's what you expect to see in the real world. So as you can see, how performance is now improved to about 50 frames. So we've got about 15 frames increase. Okay, all right. Another thing that I want to show you is if we go all the way back here and maybe here in this area. Now this is the water, okay, and I'm gonna go ahead and say rendering options, and I'm gonna say none. Okay, look at that. Look at how much frames we've received. We've received just about 20 frames extra by turning off the settings or the max settings for the water. So with no water at all, we're now getting 70 frames. So guys, max settings on the shadow details, we've gotten 15 frames with 3D on aircraft, and now with the water turned off, we're getting about another 20 frames. 20 and 15, that's 35 frames altogether that we've gained by turning off two things: shadows, 3D on aircraft, and no reflections for the water. So this, as you can see, the performance increase is significant. So those two settings you really need to watch for. You really need to test them properly to hit that sweet spot. Now, let me tell you guys, you don't need 60 frames to have a smooth experience. Anything 35 and above is perfectly fine. I think 35 is perfect for X-Plane under any condition. So you can get to tweak this until you get about between 34 and 36 frames. So again, just to show you this once more, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back here, all right, and I'm going to put back two things. I'm going to put the shadows on global, melt your GPU, and I'm going to put the water reflection detail on complete. And let's see now. All right, captains, here we are back now, and we have the global shadows re-enabled, and we have full water reflection, and as you can see, it looks so much better. Look at the reflection here of the terrain. It looks absolutely fantastic, and we are now at about 38, 39 frames. So we lost quite a bit from 70 frames. We lost quite a bit, but it's still a very smooth experience. It works well, as you can see, all the shadows here on the mountains, on the terrain. It looks absolutely fantastic. Okay. All right, so this is what I wanted to show you guys in terms of my X-Plane settings. What I want to show you now is I want to show you a couple of things for my RTH settings. Now, I will make, of course, this available for you to download. I have two presets that I use for X-Plane. Preset 4, which is the one you see now, and this one is the one I use for daylight. As you can see, it has this nice blue color here in the horizon, and I think it looks very, very realistic. It's very reasonable. And then I have set 1, which I use for kind of dusk. So if I go to change the time here to, so if I go now and click on 1, look at that. You see how it took away the fog, the extra fog in the area, so you can see more. And because I have extended DSF ticked on, it will load more tiles, if you will. And with this setting, it really takes away, I think, from, maybe some of you would like this better, I don't know, but everything else is exactly the same. So the lighting, the light intensity, everything else is exactly the same. There is one thing that is worthwhile mentioning. When I'm flying only the IXEG 737 with the KHI turned off, I get some really funny view from the cockpit. It just blurs everything, as if there is a heavy fog forming in front of the aircraft. Looks extremely unrealistic. So what I found out is when I turn this on, it works quite well. And this actually works only at night. This problem is only at nighttime or at dusk. So this is what I use. I will make this available for you guys. So I have set one for nighttime or for dusk. And here, let me just make this a bit. As you can see, it still looks extremely nice here at night. With setting 1, and this is setting 4. So you could use this if you like. It's got more of a haze layer, if you will, but I think it looks much better this way, especially at night. So it's really up to you, and you have both settings. I will make this whole thing available for you guys to download. All right, moving away from RTH, let's go ahead and take a look at my SkyMaxx Pro settings. Okay, so these are my SkyMaxx Pro settings. The cloud area covered is 10,000 square kilometers. I think this is more than enough, guys. I've tried using something more. I've tried maxing this all the way. And other than the degradation in performance, you don't really get much. So I leave it at 10. As you can see here, I have 6 gigs of video available. So I'm using 6 already. So if you have a graphic card that is a 6 GB VRAM, then at this point in this scene with these settings, you're going to get some really bad performance. So you need to be very careful with this as well. And this is something I really like about SkyMaxx Pro, because it gives you the real usage, and it gets this directly from your graphic card. Puff rotation speed is at default at 10. The cloud puff style is crisp, meaning high resolution, if you will. God rays is turned off. It's just I don't like it. It doesn't really add anything to me. The source layer resolution texture set is set on medium because on high, I noticed that it kind of looked funny. The area around the cloud looks so defined that it looks like a piece of I don't know, nylon bag or something flying in the air. So I leave this at medium, and these are the set 5 is the one that I use. Default sky colors, and by the way, the reason I use this one is because I've actually changed the default sky colors, and you see these are the sky colors by Abdullah Al-Muntasir, Ultra Weather XP, version 1.5. I do have the most recent version, but I think the sky colors look a bit different in the newer version. So this is the set 1 of the Ultra Weather XP version 1.5. Okay, enable cloud reflections on water is off. It just looks tacky, so I leave it off. Solid stratiform for the overcast representation. Some of you prefer sparse particles. It is definitely easier on the frames. Or broken stratiform also looks good from. If you're below the cloud, if you're below that layer, it looks fantastic. If you're above it, it looks a bit cartoonish. So I prefer to go with the solid stratiform. It looks, I think, the most convincing. It's not very convincing, but it is the most convincing of all of these 4 options. Lens flare effect. Honestly, guys, your eyes don't have lens flare, okay? So this simulates maybe like a video camera or a camera, and maybe you're trying to take a picture, then you'll get a lens flare, but your eyes, your bare eyes, as you fly, will never see lens flare. So it's a bit unrealistic, but I leave it on. I think it looks nice, so I leave it on. Shadow intensity. Cloud shadows is definitely on, and I set the intensity to 0.2. And the reason why is if you have this setting, I think it's here, I think it's probably 0.5 is the default setting. What happens is when you're at an airport and it's, you know, kind of afternoon time, the clouds would really make things really dark. And X-Plane is already very dark, so it will make things really dark for you. So if you reduce the intensity of the clouds, that will brighten things a little bit, and it should, you know, it shouldn't really look too dark if the area is, you know, is cloudy. Cloud terrain blend softness, definitely this setting, I set it at the maximum setting, and if you set it anywhere less, do not use solid stratiform because it would just look terrible. Okay, so if you want to use this at any settings other than the max, then I would go with sparse particles or broken stratiform, something like that. But never use this with less than a max and solid stratiform because it's not going to look good at all. Okay, so this is the SkyMaxx Pro setting. Alright, captains, before we conclude our video, I'm just going to tell you exactly the computer specs that I have. And perhaps you'd like to build a PC. I don't recommend, by the way, that you purchase any brand names. Do not purchase Alienware. Do not purchase Dell or anything like that. Please build your own PC. It's much cheaper and you get more value for the buck. So this is what I have. I have an Intel i7 4 GHz 4790K. Of course, I have the MSI motherboard Z97M Power. I have the PNY SSD 1 gig. That's my SSD. I have the Seagate 4 terabyte hard disk drive. And then I have the 12 GB GTX Titan X. I've got a DVD writer, but you don't need it now. I've got a Corsair power supply. It's the CX860M. I have the Cool Master case, Trooper Standard. I have the Corsair fan, H90. Of course, Windows 10 Professional Edition. And that's pretty much... let me... I'm actually looking at the at my receipt. I have the Corsair 32 GB DDR3 Vengeance at 2666 hertz, and of course I have the Razer keyboard, the Razer headset, and the Razer mouse that I use with my PC. Captains, I hope that this has been a useful and informative video. I hope that you've enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to put your question in the comment section below. Until next time, please take care of yourselves and each other, and I will see you all very soon. Thanks for watching, and bye-bye for now.